think this push-to-talk is broken.
Why? What's wrong with it?
Defective. How am I supposed to do the whole Secret Service talking into your shirt cuff thing if I don't have Slack? Hey guys, welcome to Gear Tasting. Today I wanted to start off talking about a couple of books I just got in, and which will lead me to other discussions, but first off I want to talk about a new book, or new book to me, from Gavin de Becker called Just 2 Seconds. So if you guys are familiar, I think I've talked before about Gift of Fear. That's his book that I would highly recommend any of you listening pick up immediately and read, especially for those of you that have spouses. Make sure your significant other reads it. Even if your kids are able to digest that material, to have them read it too. So his book Gift of Fear is all about listening to your gut, basically. So your gut will tell you that threats are approaching. You know, there's just so many examples of those kind of situations occurring that I highly recommend it. If you're into any kind of preparedness or any kind of security knowledge, or if you're interested in learning more on those topics, I would highly recommend Gift of Fear. Even if you have no desire to really get into that field, just learning more about what could potentially happen if you're not listening to your gut is just huge. So great book. So this is Just 2 Seconds. I think this was published in the early 2000s. I've been reading I've probably read Gift of Fear like 5 times. I listened to the audio book a handful of times too. I always learn something new every time I pick it up. I like reading. I go through a lot of books. So I just finished It by Stephen King. It's like, you know, this big. I couldn't even hold it in my hands at night when I'm reading. But this is something I'm going to check out. I'm really interested to read more from Gavin de Becker. So this is basically his book that talks more specifically about what he does in his company. So he founded a security company a long time ago, and they provide threat assessment and things to public figures and you know, high risk individuals and things like that. So he's talking about some of the theory behind that in this book. So really interested to check that out. And then I picked up the general class book for ham radio. So those of you guys that listened to our most recent Gear Tasting Radio episode know that Rob and I just passed our technician exam for ham radio. Yay! It's taken me like 2 years to get back and finally take a test again. I tried the brute force attack method the first time I took my technician exam to try to get my ham cert. So I picked up Gordon West's technician book, which is beat to crap. I've had it for 2 years. It's, you know, well used. So what he does is he has all the questions, because with ham radio, when you take the test for it, you get the questions and you know the answers. So there's nothing that's a secret on the test. You just have to memorize that information. So Gordon does a really good job of presenting the content in this book with little mnemonic devices and things that help you kind of learn the questions that are going to be asked on the test. So it's really helped me retain the information really well too. So I was actually surprised at how much it helped. So I use that in combination with the practice tests on qrz.com. And I think that both of those resources were incredibly invaluable to help me pass the test, and Rob agrees, I know it. So the deal with that is that your ham radio certification will cost you, you know, maybe $35 total. I mean, the book's maybe $20, and again, this is the general. You want the technician for the first level, but cost you $35. The frequencies and the abilities that it opens up for radio communication are just, there's no equal, really. So if you're interested in any kind of emergency communication, which is why I got into it, there's really nothing that matches what you can do with the ham radio frequencies that you have access to as a technician level ham. So I want to talk a little bit about radios. So I've gone over this a little bit in the past, but it's always a good refresher to kind of talk about, because when a lot of people think of radio communication, they think of this thing, this old FRS radio. These are a piece of crap, obviously. I've had these little Motorola talkabouts, God, since I was pretty young. I think these were some of the first little, I don't know what you'd call them, publicly available radios that weren't like Spytech walkie-talkies or something. So these are using FRS frequencies. That's the family radio service, and they're operating at about 1/2 of a watt, which in terms of power, that's really a big deal when it comes to the transmit capability of handheld transceivers, which these are. They have a transmit function and they have a receive function, hence transceiver. So when you're talking about half a watt, the actual power that it can broadcast your signal is super limited. Half a watt is nothing. So, and then when you're talking about upgraded radios like these Baofangs and Waksuns that I'll talk about here in a second, these are getting about 5 watts of power. So they're enormous when it comes to the difference. Now, you can't always operate at 5 watts of power based on frequency limitations. So on the mirrors frequencies, I think you can only operate on 1.5 watts of power or something like that. I have to look it back up. But so you've got FRS, so Family Radio Service frequencies, you've got GMRS frequencies, and you've got mirrors frequencies. Those are kind of the big 3 that are available to you in a non-licensed role. So then there's also a GMRS license you can apply for that's like super cheap. It's like $5. All it is an actual document you fill out and mail into the FCC. You get an official radio license to operate on specific GMRS channels that weren't already available to you. So just so you know too, you can monitor any channel out there. You could put in ham frequencies into this. You're not going to put in the ham frequencies in this, by the way, FRS only. So you can actually listen to traffic from all these things. You just can't transmit and talk to people without licenses for specific GMRS frequencies and specific ham radio frequencies. So that's kind of the gist. So the big deal too is simplex versus duplex operations. So simplex is me talking to this radio. You know, I got 2 radios. I'm talking to Rob over here, and we've just got a back and forth communication. And we're limited by the length of, the power output. We're limited by the antenna capability, all that good stuff. But on ham frequencies, you have access to duplex operations. So what duplex operation means is that you're hitting a repeater somewhere that in turn is hitting Rob's radio later. So if we both tapped into a repeater, I could talk to him from my house and he could be at his house and we'd be communicating and we wouldn't be line of sight, so to speak. There's a little more than line of sight to antennas like this. You're also dealing with like curvature of the earth and things like that, and then again transmit power. So the big thing with these radios is they're capable of more because of the power output and because of the duplex operation or the ability to hit a repeater and things like that. You're not going to get that in FRS radio. So a lot of companies out there love to advertise up to 22 miles of communication off these little radios for only $17.99. You're not going to get that. So the deal is with that, legally, I guess they can say that because they've had that capability at some point. So the deal is they're probably in elevated towers. They've got a perfect conditions. Maybe there's some cloud cover. They're able to beam signal long distance. They're not dealing with the curvature of the earth. There's no trees in front of them. There's no buildings. There's no fences. There's no nothing. That's like perfect conditions for 22 miles of distance on a half-watt FRS radio. So you're not going to get that. So you can just kind of kiss that theory goodbye. You should just buy a $30 Baofang from Amazon and be able to do much more, put on a good antenna. That's a great upgrade you can do. And then you can communicate on mirrors frequencies and things like that that will at least get you out to some distance. So I'd highly recommend, this is my pitch to make you guys ham radio operators. It took me a long time. Like I said, I tried to brute force the test in the first place. I think I did kind of do well for just not knowing the content very well. I only missed 2, so I failed it by 2 questions. But this time I only missed 1, which Rob missed 0, and I'm pretty upset about that. I could never get 100% on the practice test for some reason. I always missed 1. I don't know what my deal was. And even on the test, I missed 1. But anyway, so I would highly recommend it. Pick up Gordon's book on the technician exam. Study it. I think in all, when I really put my mind to it, it took me about a week and a half to 2 weeks of hardcore studying and taking those practice exams on that QRZ.com, and I was able to pass it. So we took like a 2-week or 2-weekend class that was put on by our local radio club, and they did the testing and everything like that. So it's super cheap. It's $14 to actually do the test. You don't have to get the book. You could just do QRZ.com and practice test yourself to death and spend $14 and probably pass. So just a pitch for that. And then the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is I just got this little packet from Gordon. So in the back you can send away for an official certificate of achievement, because the FCC doesn't send you a license anymore. They just have you in the database online that you can see your you can see your radio code or your FCC license information and see your call sign. That's what I was trying to think of. So anyway, that's my pitch. Hopefully you guys get into it, and feel free to ask any questions, and please, throw up your call sign in the comments. We'd love to eventually, once Rob and I start getting really big into ham radio, we'd love to talk to you. There is a limitation, however, on ham radio, so you should know that it's not for commercial purposes. You can't cuss on it and things like that, so there's a little more of a hall monitor aspect of it. People are kind of looking for you to mess up because the FCC is not really actively playing a role in monitoring those frequencies as a whole. They largely depend on the community to police themselves, which is cool. But you can't do certain things on it. So we can't use it for commercial purposes for ITS. So if we're talking together and we just happen to stumble on a net, it's just going to be us personally talking together. So throw up your call sign. Hopefully we can hit you back. All right, we got one question over coffee. First off, Drinking got your 6 coffee again today, and their Blue Line blend, which is very good. I like it quite a bit. So Andy M from Twitter, what are your thoughts on XDM 9mm internal parts modifications and upgrades? So my history with handguns dates back, I think I've talked about this before, I have no idea. It dates back to before I went in the military. So I knew I was going to go to BUD/S, wanted to be a SEAL, so I got a Sig 226, and this is the Sig 226 that I bought before they came out with the rail and all that good stuff, back before Christ was a kid or whatever. But anyway, that's what I knew I'd be shooting in the Navy because I did my research, so that's what I learned on, and that's when it's probably, right when I could buy a handgun at 21, I bought a 226, so here in Texas you have to be 21. I don't know if it's US-wide, but anyway, I started learning on that, and I really wasn't all that good with a handgun. I'm still not where I want to be with a handgun. I don't know if any of us ever are. But so one of the downsides that I always felt that I could never get over was the inconsistency between the double action, single action trigger that's in a 226. So there is a Sig SRT trigger that I had thought about at one time putting in, but I've always been hesitant to make modifications to guns. I mean, even back when I knew the SRT option was around, I just was super hesitant about doing that. So the Sig in itself has about a 10-pound trigger pull. So the first pull of the trigger, and I'm clear, point in a safe direction, all that good stuff. So the first trigger pull is about 10 pounds. So that first pull is 10 pounds, Glock resets, and then the travel is huge compared to a Glock before you get to the single action. So that was always a downside to me, just the trigger pull difference. I could never, first draw, you come out double action, you've got that 10-pound trigger squeeze, and my brain couldn't get past that between the double action trigger pull and then going to single action. So, and I didn't find that I was any better on single action than double action, but I think it was that difference in trigger pull that really kind of messed with my ability to shoot a handgun well. So, I had a friend, this was back probably 5-6 years ago, something like that let me shoot his Glock. And that was the first time I'd ever shot a Glock before. I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. I don't really understand the hype. And then I really started looking into issues behind, DASA stuff like the Sig 226 and how it does cause inconsistency. And I can't remember what I read, but I read some stuff out there and a light bulb kind of went off. I was like, I really just need to drink the Kool-Aid and give Glock a shot and we'll see what happens. So I did. I bought a Glock, I bought a 19, and I have never touched my Sigs from the moment that I bought a Glock. So, and I was a huge Sig person. I never made it to BUD/S to third phase to be able to shoot a Sig. I got rolled in second phase at the end of a dive. I've talked about it before. But I was just in that mindset that I'm going to be using a Sig. This is what I need to do. I just need to become as super proficient as I can. And the logic made sense back then. But then when I got out after I got injured, I didn't really have a reason to be on the 226. It was just maybe a nostalgia thing for me. I don't know. And I'm not saying it's a bad gun. I like Sig, and I love these guns. I own 2 of them, actually. I bought one with a rail later on, too, before I switched Glock. So then when I got the 19, I never shot these again. But I just have never wanted to go back to a DA SA gun again since I shot the 19. And now I carry the 43 on a daily basis. So I still use the 19 if I'm doing some range stuff and things like that, but primarily I try to train as much as I can on the 43 because that's what I carry on a regular basis. So my needs are a lot different than a lot of people's out there. And I know this is a little long-winded on your question, but this is all to say that I don't like messing with the internals on guns. I just, there's something, I don't know, maybe it's fear, who knows? You know, fear is only things that haven't taken place yet, so maybe, I don't know, maybe there's nothing wrong with them, but I just have a hesitation. I'll upgrade ARs all day long. I'll put in triggers and all that good stuff. But for some reason, and I don't know why, I just feel like AR upgrades, even to triggers, are more safe than doing those upgrades to a factory pistol. Because I just feel like when you start messing with factory internals, you really change things. And especially on a gun, I'm going to carry appendix. I don't know. I just have this strange, weird thing with it. I don't really buy into the whole you're going to shoot your dick off kind of thing with carrying appendix. I'm just not, I'm not carrying a Serpa right here, so I really don't really feel I have anything to worry about. And I'm not, speed reholstering and shit like that when I'm on the range. I'm taking my time, and if I am going to reholster appendix. So I don't feel like there's that issue that's going to present itself even if I were to do something, but there's just that part of my brain that just does not want to mess with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those are my thoughts. I mean, you asked for my thoughts on it. I've never even shot an XDM before, so I can't specifically comment on that platform, but when it comes to modifying factory internals, I'm just not a big fan. Hey guys, one last thing. If you guys are subscribed on our Patreon level to be able to see kind of some of the behind the scenes stuff we've been doing, you'll know that we've got this shirt releasing tomorrow, which has this witty slogan on the front that we know you're going to love. But we kind of came up with this design with a little tax stamp on the back. And if you know anything about tax stamps and having to register SBRs, you'll know exactly what we're talking about and get the little, nod to a joke, inside joke with that. So anyway, we're releasing these shirts tomorrow if you want to pick one up. These are printed in the United States with our little label on the inside. So check them out. They're releasing tomorrow in the store. And, as a kind of continuation nod to Patreon, I know I'm kind of pushing this. The last few videos you might have seen if you watch all our videos have really mentioned Patreon, but we've really want to do some stuff to upgrade our video production. We've got, an older Canon camera we shoot with, actually 2 older Canon cameras we shoot with. Our audio equipment's really good. We bought really good lapel mics when we first started this thing and got some good advice for that, as well as how we record audio. But we want to move into the 4K realm. We want to upgrade some of our computer equipment to be able to process 4K video and all that good stuff. We've got some great goals, and we can do that with your help on Patreon. So sorry to be asking for money. Sorry, not sorry. Anyway, if you like the free content we're giving you, hey, give us $2 a month. It's not much to ask. We'd love your support. But once you get into some of the higher echelon levels, we've got some cool stuff to give you in return. So hopefully you'll consider at least clicking over the link and seeing what we've got. It's down below in the description. And, we couldn't do any of this stuff without you guys. So if you guys weren't watching the videos, we wouldn't be doing them. So there's a lot of inherent support you're already providing to us. So we don't feel like you're giving us anything. We do. Just by watching our videos, it means a lot to us. It means you're interested in our content. We can continue producing it. So just a quick thank you to those of you that don't plan on supporting but still like our content. Thanks for subscribing. I mean, that's big to us that we've even got. We're now almost at 250,000 subscribers on YouTube. Our video views are about to hit 50 million, which is amazing. So thanks a lot for all that. Check out our Patreon stuff below, and as always, use the # Gear Tasting on any social media network if you got questions, and we'll answer them here on our Gear Tasting show. Thanks for watching.